Hey, welcome to a tutorial of SmartScout. In this video, we're going to show you how to use the main tools of SmartScout and kind of how to make the most out of it. Today with me is Scott. He's the founder of SmartScout, and Scott sold, I believe, over 400 million at this point on Amazon, which
Yeah.
is pretty awesome, man. That's great results. And I guess the software is made on experience, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, man, could you introduce yourself, tell us
Yeah.
about yourself and what you guys do? And we're going to show everything about well, not everything, the main things about
Yeah.
SmartScout. And in the description, I'll include a 25% off for 3 months special discount and a coupon. So yeah, welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Vova. About me, I've been selling on Amazon for 11, 12 years. That transition, I joined a brother who was selling on Amazon and changed a lot of how I thought about, what my career was going to be because I got to work from home. I got to, work from a computer, very easy, very relaxed. I loved it. It's been the best direction becoming an Amazon seller. And we grew, and that was just like, it's just a lot of fun to see your business grow. If you work your butt off in an Amazon business, like you can double, you can triple your sales. Like that's possible. Whereas my family, we've worked in retail and we work really hard and you could grow sales 5-10%. So I kind of loved this whole space. And really, when I say I'm an Amazon seller, really, I'm an Amazon software developer where I've worked on operations, inventory management, shipments, and all that stuff, and kind of trying to figure out how programming can help make that job better. So SmartScout started with one single idea. It's grown to a lot of different things, but the first idea was, how can I find the best of the best opportunities? I've sold as a wholesale reseller. I've also sold as private label, still kind of do both to this date, but it's easy to find an opportunity, but it's hard to know if should I be spending my time here? Is this worth it? And what I ended up doing was creating a database of every single brand, every single product, every single category on Amazon. And you start to tease out the qualities of those brands. And, there's about 1 million brands on Amazon. And so at its core, where SmartScout's kind of like an opportunity finder. What is like the best of the best brands if you want to work with one? We have a lot of agencies that kind of have that perspective. We have a lot of wholesale sellers. Then if you're a private label, you're like, well, I want to look at my competition. So SmartScout, I feel it's like, I don't know if you've ever read a book that maybe is a little bit more philosophical in nature. Maybe you read it when you're a teenager. Maybe you read it again when you're in your 20s, and maybe you read it again when you're 30s, and you actually see something completely different in that book because it applies to you in your life just in a very different way. So that's my analogy of like how SmartScout is. If people ask me like, is this a tool for private label? Like I can't tell you how many people that are reseller that are like, oh, this is a private label tool. Or how many people that are private label be like, oh, this is like for like resellers. And I'm like, no, like it's just kind of, we're trying to reflect the market. And give you access to like learn. Yeah. And everything that we cover won't be like one, there's not one way to do SmartScout. There's people that use it in ways that I haven't imagined yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this visual right here is kind of how we see it. So we have like a root category, we have subcategories, brands, and like we collect data on each of them. We collect data on sellers, products, and then down to the keywords. So we think big picture. And what we like to do is we like to thread the data. SmartScout threads that data. So like if you start at the root category, you could go down and look at the brands, you could go down and look at the sellers, the products, and then the keywords. Or if you start at the bottom, if you start with the keywords, we want to show you how like that, those things can impact. We even have a view like, okay, what keywords are dominant in a category? So it's kind of that connection of the data levels that has been kind of the unique flavor to SmartScout. That's my story. That's the beginnings of SmartScout without even jumping into the tool.
Welcome, man. How many years has like SmartScout been on the market? Because I remember the seller map from a few years ago, and
the seller map was just about 3 years ago. It's been
ago.
3.5 years since we started. We had a very steady growth. Nothing's like grown like crazy fast, but like it's always like every month's been a little bit better than the previous one. I don't know. I've loved it. It's been fun to take a problem and to keep iterating on it year after year.
All right, man. Glad to hear that you're
Uh,
growing. And
yeah.
yeah.
So should we jump in?
Yeah, let's go, man. Let's do it. And I'll
Okay.
remind to our listeners, viewers, in the description, there's the coupon code for discounts, and everyone's happy, I think. So
This is our subcategories tool.
hmm
I was doing some nerdy stuff looking at there's actually a node ID, but I'm paying attention just to the first few columns here. So these are the main categories of Amazon.
hmm
We have home and kitchen, health and household, clothing, books, electronics, beauty, personal care, and the estimate monthly revenue inside of that. And this is in the billions per month. Pretty impressive. We're looking at the US market. We do have this tool working in about 10 different markets right now. All these ones down here.
hmm
And every market actually has their category structure slightly different, but I'm most comfortable with the US market. It's the one that we've looked at the most. So then as I click this arrow, that's kind of where to me this tool kind of comes alive as we get to jump into kitchen and dining. Shoot, we can keep clicking through storage and organization, food storage. I don't know where we're going to end up. Food jars and canisters, $6 million a month. So still a pretty sizable category, as you see. And it kind of gives you this feeling that Amazon is it's not like one marketplace. It's a collection of tens of thousands of small marketplaces.
hmm
Whatever's happening in this food jars and canisters, it's its own thing. And we do have additional data regarding this specific category. We see that this is very dominated by sellers as opposed to 1P. Doesn't seem to be growing too much. In fact, year over year, we're seeing a slight decline, and average volume actually 0.34 cubic feet. That's not small, because I think these are containers, and sometimes people sell
hmm
like a dozen at a time. And so you could browse at will, every single category under the sun, but you can jump in. And let's do that for the first time, where this little hourglass right here, if I click on it, it basically says, let's jump in. Let's look at the brands inside of this category. Here we have, I don't recognize any of these brands, Comsaf, Netney, Planetary Design, and we see their estimate revenue and their market share. Also, we're showing what's the 30-day change. Are they growing? Are they shrinking? Looks like most of these are growing. I bet you there's a few losers down here. That's where these percentages are coming from. So yeah, actually, this one's very interesting. Netney, they only have 4 ASINs, and they're second in market share. Then you could jump into the products of this category. So interesting. I'm guessing there's a variety of containers. There's not just one type of container. So, you can click through, jump and actually see the product. Maybe I should have picked a category that I know more about. I don't know anything about this, but this
Yes.
gives you an idea. This is ordered by monthly revenue and the launch date. We have plenty columns of data. You kind of get lost in that. We have the buy box price, and this looks like an inexpensive product at $11 versus some of these more expensive products at $30. Okay, yeah, these are larger 1-gallon glass jars.
hmm
So, already we have so much data about this subcategory, and there's, 40,000 categories. So that's the subcategories tool at its core. If you're launching a product, this can really help you give you some of that initial validation. Like, is there enough revenue here to be shared? Is there room for another entrant? There are some subcategories that only do $50,000, $100,000 a month. Probably not something super exciting. And then
hmm
there's super large subcategories that might even do 100 million a month. And those can be very hard on their own, and everything in between. So it kind of lets you just browse. I think there's a lot of product finders out there. Those seem very like, you don't know what you're going to get. If you just type in a few
Mm.
filters, you're like, I don't know where I'm going to land. Here we're in the health and household and we see, okay, if you have cups, disposable cups, that's $35 million a month. Disposable drinking straws, 4 million. So this organization reflects how Amazon is organized and kind of makes you feel like product research, you're choosing the direction you go.
Yeah, pretty cool, man. So a seller jumps here, either if it's a reseller or a private label, and starts browsing categories, goes in depth into subcategories. We see the revenue, we see if it's Amazon dominated or not, which in private label, I mean, it depends, but it's not as good to see a lot of, let's say, from my experience, Amazon just usually for some reason ranks at the top and
Yeah.
yeah, and they do get a lot of the sales. So for example, we can see that in the Amazon revenue share, and we can see 12-month growth. So basically we can jump into subcategories, travel here, yeah, find things we never thought of. So, and then we have all the numbers in front of us, so that can help us with our research, and that's pretty interesting.
Absolutely. We see these baby bottles and warmers and sterilizers. Look how much they're trending
Yeah.
up over the last 12 months. So sterilizing and warming bottles is on the rise. Um,
Right.
because it's easier to be part of a growing market. That's generally what I always think. So there's plenty of ways to like look at this. We kind of put all the categories here at once right here. If you want to look at a specific category, let's say we only want to look at growing categories. This is our niche finder. It's kind of like we have a lot of these tabs, and this
Mm-hmm.
niche finder is just a different way to look at it. Let's look. Yeah, you just like throw like filters, like, okay, we want categories with like
Mm.
at most 10% Amazon. We want small packages. If we want, a revenue range of let's say 2 million. So we want to do at least 2 million. Okay, there's
Mm-hmm.
460 categories that fit what we just talked, like the filters that we threw in. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's probably a good summary of the subcategories tool. And one of the great ways to kind of start out, there's two tools that like I push first time users to. Subcategories is one, and the other is brands. It's basically every brand on Amazon. We have 1.3 million brands that we're tracking. You got the Apples and Amazons, Amazon Basics and Samsung, down to Halo, the baby product, Pilot, Bounty, Blooming Jelly. There's just so many brands, and some of them do tens of millions, some of them do only 1 million a month. This is kind of like where you could type in a competitor. I'm going to type in Cellucor. I like them because they're an energy drink brand. They're the energy
Mm-hmm.
drink C4 that's really popular in the US. They just happen to be grouped together. So it looks like they're doing about $8 million a month. Average price, $40. Looks like they are a 1P brand. We have Amazon's in stock rate. This is like 92% of their products are in stock with Amazon as the dominant seller. More data columns, 1 month growth, 12-month growth. Let's look at this.
Mm-hmm.
12-month growth, 58%. I like this brand because they invest so heavily in Amazon. They are very innovative and just push,
Hmm.
push, push, push. So,
Yeah, I remember
this
it
is,
as a pre-workout, like so
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
now yeah, C4.
Their pre-workout is, I think, is their number one. They also
Mm-hmm.
just sell just energy drinks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, here we go. Watermelon ice. I get a headache if I drink this stuff.
Yeah.
I kid you not. Like I do drink
Yeah.
energy drinks like one a day, but these ones are just too much for me. So we look at, an in-depth report. Here's their top level
Mm.
information. I'm actually going to generate what we call a tailored report. This takes a second to generate because they have 166 ASINs. And what we do is we're going to create a very fresh report. This probably takes like 2 minutes.
Mm.
I actually can come back to that. Oh,
Mm.
it's already moving. But
Mm-hmm.
this is, how we were looking at the subcategories. Now we're looking at the
Ah.
brand view and showing the subcategories that they're in. So energy drinks, sports nutrition pre-workout powders, sports nutrition endurance and energy powders, I don't know these categories. I don't know, testosterone boosters.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that Cellucor was trying to do that, but here they are.
Mm-hmm.
And, they have a good size market share, like 10% of pre-workout. So they're actually probably a market leader. They're probably in the top three. I'm sure it's a very competitive category. And we can see, how they're doing. We could jump straight into, I can get lost in these tabs. So don't let me get too far. I'm trying to be, this search terms is what we call our ad spy tool, where we're looking at specific places that they are winning ads. C4 energy drink. They're winning the top spot 46% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Alani energy drink, they're only winning that top spot 3% of the time. We show sponsor brand win rate and sponsor video win rate and an estimate spend on those keywords. So yeah, this is where we look at a brand and we look at the brand's keywords that they're advertising on. So
But
very
these are not
detailed.
or Scott, are the search terms, those are not organically where the ranking is
No,
it, or that's
these
only
are
sponsored?
these are only sponsored.
Okay. Is there a
We
way to
do
see
have
organic?
yeah.
Yeah.
We
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
We just happen to be in this ad spy,
Of course. Of course.
and we're looking at it at a brand level. One thing that's a little bit like takes a little bit of getting used to is like, am I looking at a brand or am I looking at a product? And so, when you're thinking brand wide, like, it's kind of like when you're thinking like the bird's eye view. Let's actually look at a specific product, their pre-workout, and let's do our organic tool it's called Rank Maker. If you're familiar with like the reverse ASIN lookup tools, this will show this probably has a ton of keywords, being one of the top.
So it's gonna reverse ASIN, I would say, for listeners, viewers. It's when we take an ASIN and then we can see all the keywords that it's ranking for. So here we're gonna see the reverse ASIN for the brand, for all the keywords that the brand is ranking for, or only when
I actually selected a
a
product.
product. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I selected a specific product. Here's
Uh-huh.
where I was.
Yeah, yeah.
I looked at this.
Correct.
I clicked on this
Correct.
hourglass and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
take me to Rank Maker on this
On this
product.
one. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now I'm here and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, here's where they're ranked number one,
Mm-hmm.
number one, number one, number one, number one. They got a lot of number ones. They have 2,800 keywords that they're on the first 40. We actually only track the first page right
Mm-hmm.
now. We might be building out at least a few more pages to watch things. C4 pre-workout. So like that's, 73,000 search volume. This has been rank 3, in the last month, but it's popped up to number 1. I bet you when it's rank 3, it's competing against itself. I'm sure there's other C4 products that are ranking number 1, but the latest that we saw was number 1. They got pages and pages of number 1. So what I'm actually going to try and do is I'm going to do a minimum search volume of 100, just so I see only their top keywords.
Mm-hmm.
Man, these guys have a lot. That's why I like looking at this brand, because just how competitive they are. Pre-workout for women, there they are. So you could click through and actually see what's going on. Yeah, here they are. They're the best seller.
On the left here, we see ASINs, and we sometimes have 3 ASINs, let's say. Is it
Yeah.
variations of the same of the
So the variant that shows in the image can
uh-huh.
change. So
Hmm.
look, here we have a C4 right here. This is like the
Mm-hmm.
organically ranked one. It's showing this flavor watermelon, but sometimes we're seeing another variation. So we just give the ASINs that we see in the variation organically. It may be a little confusing, but we're just trying to like reflect how is this variation family of products being seen.
All
So
right. So sometimes, if I understand you correctly, so you have 3 here: blue raspberry,
yeah,
fruit punch, watermelon. Sometimes on page number 1, not necessarily on page number 1, just the main variation, let's say, pops up in search. Sometimes it shows another one, and or that's what you
yeah,
mean, kind of
yeah.
thing.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
we're saying that for C4 ripped pre-workout, we have seen this variant, and this variant. Whereas C4 pre-workout original, we've only seen
Just
these two.
got it.
We just kind of treat like the family of products together as one. That's why we're showing these multiple ASINs. That may make more sense if you're trying to target certain flavor names. And because I don't think sellers actually have control always what variation is to be shown.
Not that I know, man. I don't know
I've
how it
heard some
decides.
tricks. I've heard
Hmm.
tricks, but I've never heard like, it's not like you just guaranteed every single time going to work this way. So that's when we jump into a product, we could actually see the search terms and keywords. It doesn't take very long for us to realize like just how much, how lost you can get in the data
Hmm.
because, Cellucor has 100 brands. So we try and just organize it the best we can. Here's something interesting. How well is this brand doing internationally?
Hmm.
So Cellucor, 8 million a month in the US, but nothing really in the other marketplaces. This is in other currencies. So it's a pretty novel amount. They do 200,000 in Canadian a month. That's probably one of their bigger ones. This is Mexican
Hmm.
peso. That's not really anything at all. So yeah, before I get lost into these other shows, let's do this tailored report. There we go. It loaded up. So this is a fresh poll on their revenue and all their ASINs. Kind of do the same thing where we give a lot of the top level views. We actually use this report to
Hmm.
try and talk to brands about like, hey, this is your top product on Amazon. Here's your
Mm.
top competitor. We see unique keywords. And then, yeah, so this is just like a full report on the brand. So
Hmm.
here's the best way to explain this. So when I was
Yeah.
dating my now wife, her dad, he's a business guy. He knows a lot about business, but he doesn't know anything about internet businesses. I found every single time I talked to him about selling on Amazon, like it was just a disconnect. We just weren't talking the same language.
Hmm.
But one time, like for a fourth or fifth time jumping into it, my wife was out at lunch. He brings up business again, and I'm like, this is what we do. And then like we started talking about revenue, we started talking about competition, we started talking about market share and just like and gross margin. And like once we hit those like main like business numbers that for someone to read this report, they don't have to be Amazon knowledgeable to
Hmm.
kind of see that like, hey, this brand is doing great year over year. They're up considerably from one period to the next. And here's the categories that they're in and who some of their
Hmm.
competition is. So
Mm.
once we started saying these ideas, like it kind of helps an Amazon person communicate to a non-Amazon person. That's kind of the idea of this report that we build. So shoot, we've just showcased the main two tools, but I haven't asked you a question. What type of Amazon seller do you interface with the most? I mean, you're a private label seller, right?
Hmm.
There's one thing that I didn't show off that I think is worth just looking at is we throw every single brand into this data grid,
Okay.
and what that allows you to do is just filter. You're like, okay, show me every baby brand. Okay, show me every baby brand between 1 million and max of 5 million. We don't want the brands that are too big.
Mm. Hmm.
Show me the brands that have a dominant seller in, I don't know, let's look at the Chinese brands. So here we have 36 baby brands that kind of fit this criteria. Or maybe we want to look at the brands that start in started in the US and 133 baby brands. Okay, show me the number of baby brands that have like, the average number of sellers. Like, do they have like resellers on that? Let's say 2 to 4. So we took 1 million brands and we filtered this down to like the 29 brands that fit this criteria. And we could jump and look at each one of them. I recognize a few of these brands. I've got a 2-year-old. We have an outlet. I've heard of some of these. And so that's kind of one of the unique use cases of the brands tool. So kind of like when people start out with Smart Scout, I'm like, okay, look at the subcategories tool. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's just like, oh, like that's possible to like see Amazon, that way. And this brands tool, same thing. 1 million brands on Amazon. How do I filter around and like look at my competition, my categories? Those are the two main things. I think, with the time that we have remaining, two categories that might be interesting, either the seller map We also have a tool called Popping Topics that is kind of like the Google Trends of Amazon. Those two might be of most interest.
So, Scott, because I'm familiar with the seller map, I think it can be interesting also for product research for people. And would be cool if we also devote like maybe a few minutes to the pricing so people can see the
Yeah.
prices and
Okay.
different pricing plans of Smart Scout so they can
Yeah.
see what's best for them. And I'll remind, of course, there's a best discount coupon code in the description. Then, yeah. So let's do the
Yeah.
seller map quickly. Like, this is how I
Yeah.
found out about like Smart
Yeah.
Scout back in the
You
day.
know,
And
I mean, the seller map really put us on the map. It's the most of, I'm being totally transparent. Like, it's the most effective thing in the 3.5 years that I've done. That's like helped people understand like what we're up to. And because we kind of gave it away, it's like available on our website. You could use it for like
yeah,
15
yeah.
minutes for free. And so I just jumped into New York City just because it lights
Ooh.
up like Christmas. You see all these different things. We've actually added in one layer where if they're purple, that means they sell a lot
Mm.
of brands. If they're yellow, they sell one or two brands. So that's kind of how we distinguish between the private label
Mm-hmm.
sellers and the resellers. And there's a healthy mix of both. I mean, like I sometimes depends the circle you're in and how you learn about Amazon, but like sometimes people like they dismiss the resellers. I'm like, you have no idea. There are so many and they're big. And on the flip side, like there's a lot of successful private label. Right here, we have a few hundred successful private label brands. So I have no idea. Like I'm just going to click on one. You could click on Value Meds. I can look
Mm-hmm.
at the brands that they sell. This is a private label. They do 1 million a month. Looks like it's a
Mm-hmm.
supplement, allergy
Oh, sure.
relief. Yeah, they've done a good job. And we close that out and we look back at the sellers like, okay, here's Kellard's. Don't know what they do, but they sell Nikon, I recognize.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like they have their own private label, Kellard's. Sennheiser, that's electronics, JBL Electronics,
Yes.
Kodak.
Kodak.
So it looks like
Yeah.
they have a little bit of an edge in the photography world. And then I could even jump into Kellard's from here, like the brand. You could just get lost.
Yeah. Because you
Oh,
go
this is
from
cool.
seller to a brand to a seller to a brand to a brand to a brand to a seller, and you know.
I'm
Yeah.
using this product right now, that red box. So I think
Uh-huh.
they've created branded bundles. That's what they've done.
Mm.
That's what this
Mm-hmm.
Kellard's brand is. That's where they take a branded product of their own and then they pair it with like someone else's branded product and create a bundle. Sometimes it works,
They
sometimes it
enjoy
doesn't.
the keywords, I guess, of both and
Yeah.
of the bigger brand as
I
well.
mean,
Let's say.
there's some resellers that like crush it with that,
Mm-hmm.
but the brand does have the right to take it down. And so usually those are done. Well, eventually it has to be like with the permission of the brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be
Yeah. Yeah.
like, hey, we appreciate this bundle. There's advantages to have multiple bundles of your brand on Amazon because customers are going to find you somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the seller map. It's just fun to browse around. You could go into China and like, it's gonna light up like Christmas as well. I mean, it's
Wow.
almost daunting. Like
Private label.
the private label of South China. So actually I found one here the other day.
Uh-huh.
They have their seller name here. Yep. Motion US.
Hmm.
They're not a US seller, but they have the name US in
Yeah,
their
they like
name.
to add the US to the
That's
name. Yeah.
that's funny.
Ooh,
Uh,
cars. What's that? Uh,
those are actually robot mowers.
okay. Mm.
I think these are like robot mowers, robotic lawn mowers.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I bet you they're killing it right now.
Yeah, that's
Number one
the
bestseller in
season.
robotic lawnmowers. Holy cow, for $4,000
Ooh.
a month. That's an expensive lawnmower.
Very interesting, man.
Yeah.
High ticket product. Wow. Impressive. Different
Yeah.
variations there, whatnot.
Oh, it's their premium one. It mows up to two. Okay. You can get a little bit cheaper.
So yeah, I mean, with the
Uh,
seller map, you just travel around the world. You can, let's say someone's from Italy, and they're looking to resell on Italy, and they can find the resellers or private label, or
Yeah.
they, like, mhm,
One of the I find people that have a unique success if they really understand one country's like brands and
mm,
that they like their native residents love, and they bring them to other countries. I've actually talked to a few people that bring Italian brands to the US.
mhm,
I'm sure there's some hoops to jump, but once you get that distribution, you know, you can really you make products available that people enjoy. So
mhm,
it is very interesting. And because we have this seller map in multiple countries, like let's go to the UK.
mhm,
All
mhm.
right. Now we're looking at the top sellers of the UK.
Yep.
Let's go to London.
Oh, wow.
This market's not quite as big. A big seller here is doing just $100,000 a month. Still
Mhm.
though, actually, if I do max number of sellers, 5,000, this will limit it to the larger sellers.
Oh, mhm. Can see someone huge there in the this huge
That actually
circle.
is it's probably Amazon.
Amazon. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Oh.
You can look at them and like they obviously sell a lot of brands. If you ever want to see all the brands that they sell, well, this is going to take a second to load up. It's
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
going to be
of
a few
course.
thousand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
we're tracking over 20,000. So Lego, Apple, Amazon, Ring, Russell Hobbs, HP. So all the big players. Let me show piping topics, and then we'll jump into the pricing. Let's go to the US. This is
Mm-hmm.
a brand new tool. It is actually
Mm-hmm.
only available in the US market. I'm hoping to change that as soon as we can. But I open it up and you see what are the trending keywords. So, what is this tool useful for? This really is like a trend spotter. What I use is for like keyword research, probably not. But if you wanted to find new things happening in a category, I don't think we have to go very far to find like something that just went viral on TikTok. It happens all the time. You're always going to see like new movies that just came out, and you'll see seasonal stuff, Father's Day. You can look at any category you want. So let's look at sports.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see the summer sports popping off. Beach tent, beach chair, cooling towels, WNBA. Now that's very interesting. That's an honest trend. This is something that in the US has really popped off this year more than any other year. And so I don't know what OU is. We can click on it. Oklahoma University. I can't find it.
Mm-hmm.
Cornhole board set, clear bag for stadium events.
Wow.
This probably pops off in the summer. If I
Mm-hmm.
look at back at 1 year, yeah, sure enough. Um, we actually only started this tool last September, so
Mm-hmm.
we're only tracking 9 months. That's how new this is for us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I recommend for now. This is June. The 3 and 6 month trend finders are going to be better. OU, WNBA, kayak, paddleboard, weighted vest, cornhole board set, fishing rod. Yeah, you can get lost. Let me show you something that I found that was interesting.
Uh-huh.
Um, I found a keyword hack the other day. Pickleball.
Okay.
I was just researching pickleball paddles. It's a sport that's picking up
Mm-hmm.
steam. I saw, what was it, 2024? There we go. Best pickleball paddles 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Before 2024, no one searched this. And now this is a pretty
Boom.
steady volume. And if I click on it, you know what? This is different than last time I saw this.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I clicked on this, the top products all had the word 2024 in them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. We got a lot of 2024s right
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of see that if you're in one of those seasonal products, that how including, I mean, this
Mm.
product was just released, I think. Huh. And so it's a little keyword hack. Like if you're in this category, I would absolutely include 2024 somewhere in your product. If we click on this graph, it actually is going to jump in further and show similar search terms.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of another place to explore the products that are ranking in the top and so forth. So that's popping topics. Let's find a TikTok brand. Let's do beauty. 3 months. Oh, I gotta get rid of my search term. Nail biting treatment for kids. Turtur cushion foundation. I don't know what this Turtur is. There we go. There's a brand that just popped off. Yeah, this Turtur brand is growing quite a bit. Jones Road Miracle Balm. It's interesting to find brand names here. There's tanning oil, there's like the normal stuff, but when you see a brand name here, that's a brand I'm guessing this Maui Babe is also a brand. Yeah. Maui Babe. Those people are doing pretty well. I don't know if they're TikTok, but that's just a way that I think about it. Makes it fun. Now let's jump into the pricing, what you get for what you do. So we have basic, essentials, and business. Everything that I showed so far is in the business tier. I didn't show off our enterprise tools. I just showed mainly the business tier and down. You can do a lot with the basic tier. These checkboxes have a little bit more clear, our product database, our seller research, our brand research. That's all available in the basic tier. The subcategories explore, that's essentials, the $97 a month. And then a few tools, let's see, traffic graph, keyword detective, that are in the business tier. I didn't even show all the business tier stuff. I mainly actually stayed in the essentials category. You get the core of SmartScout at this tier. That's me being honest with you and not being a salesman. You get the best of SmartScout at the $97 a month tier. There's more that we work on. And, we have plenty of people. We have dozens at the enterprise level and above. That's if you're doing more research on sellers and brands, that connection. If you want to do more historic research, if you want to bring the data back for the last 2 years, that's what we do at our enterprise. Some of our advanced keyword tools are on popping topics. Are on the business here. I'm speaking myself in circles now. This is just the nuts and bolts. Shared keywords by brands and products, custom reporting with Excel exports. If you ever want to download to Excel, if you want to take our data and run with it, that's part of the business here.
Awesome.
Well, any questions?
Yeah. So, of course, today we covered just some of the tools that you mentioned that mostly are going to be part of the essentials package, but business is more broad. And of course, enterprise gives even more kind of bird's eye view on everything people will be searching for. But again, as you mentioned, maybe for a new seller, I would say someone's just starting on Amazon. I believe essentials will kind of get them going for sure, spending hours and hours into product research, correct?
Yeah.
And with business, I would say you probably get a bit more data. So maybe you can do a bit more strategic decisions with the addition of that. But I guess essentials will still work. What do you think?
I could speak as a seller and kind of say if you're brand new starting out, basic is just fine. You are going to be able to get a lot of data, a lot of competitor research here. If you're scaling, growing, and you want more out of it, $97 a month, again, you're going to get basically everything that we just saw. I found, when I was, there's some years when we were selling a few $1 million on Amazon a month, tools like this just they're not that expensive. We would invest in this, we'd spend a lot of money on tools. And so that's when the business tier starts to make more sense, when your business can really swallow an expense like this. And it's not too significant. What's funny is my sales team is always going to want me to push me up here, but I'm telling you, if you have any questions of whether or not SmartScout's worth it, just start down in these 2 tiers. You're going to be just fine. I jumped on a webinar just last week with a guy that he's a power user, SmartScout, loves it, loves it, loves it. And he only uses basic.
Yeah.
So he runs an agency, a successful agency. So I was very surprised to see that at the end of the day, he has all this passion for what the tool helps him do. He's only on the basic tier. So that's just the truth.
Thank you for sharing. And in the description, we'll include the special coupon code that will even help people save a bit on these tools on these plans for 3 months. And that's cool, I think. So that's, I believe the discount, we'll try to have the best updated offer in the description, but currently, which is pretty good, I think, it's 25% off for 3 months. And I think that that's a pretty fair discount to get. And, you know, you have a money back guarantee, which is, I think, fair.
Yeah. Our team, the moment you say like, hey, it's not useful, like refunds within 15 minutes.
Scott, maybe just it's a bit if you have a minute or two more, please. Because
Sure.
you've been doing that for so long and selling on Amazon, you've achieved pretty great success. You built a software company as well. Some people are starting, some people are not at that success level, which is pretty cool, I think. So how did you keep going all this time, man?
That's a
People,
good question.
you know, like
So the truth is, my first year, like I was like on fire, just like optimizing every part of our business. My second year doing it, I started to get a little bit lazy because truthfully, I wasn't making as big of an impact. I wasn't changing the entire business. But this is 2014 we're talking about, which is now 10 years ago. I actually wish that I had a bit of perspective back then of what was possible. I mean, what I learned in the last 3 years has been like tremendous. I've like had an infinite amount of work, exciting work to do to like, you know, grow the Amazon business, grow software business. If you're willing to continue to educate yourself, to invest, like there is more to learn. And I wish that that second year that I started kind of being a little bit of a lazy Amazon seller, I would have realized how much more there was in the not only in the Amazon seller community, but in just like just in business to learn. I think e-commerce is a competitive and a fun market to be a part of. One key thing to like make it that way is just to keep learning. That's to answer your question, like what's kept me going on this whole time. It's been that I've had a fire under my butt for the last 5 years, and that led to me building SmartScout and still trying to run a few businesses at once.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you for sharing and thank you for doing this for the community, man. You know, people need some help. They need tools. They need education. They need sometimes maybe people that will explain to them why they're still going, you know, because they're starting. It's hard. They're maybe on their first product, or maybe, you know, we have about 10 products in our brand and it's still challenging. Like we're, you know, it's like, it's fun, but it is definitely challenging. And, you know, listening to people who are way more successful than myself, I'm like, that's interesting. Like what to learn from, you know what I mean? So
Of course.
yeah. Yeah, man. Thank you for your time today. I do appreciate that a lot. And again, we're going to have in the description the link to SmartScout with the best discount for our listeners, viewers. If you have any questions, ask. We're going to answer in the comments. Yeah, SmartScout, Scott Needham. And thank you, everyone. Scott, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
It was really
Thank
good.
you.
And I wish you a great rest of your day, or actually evening already for you.
Yeah. Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir. Thank you.